Welcome back to A Moment in History. I'm Seth Udinsky. Well, in our march through history, let's jump back to the 1800s and take a look at one of the most complicated and really fascinating figures in American military history. On January 21st, 1824, a baby boy was born in Clarksburg, Virginia. His name was Thomas Jackson, and during the American Civil War, he would become the second most famous general of the Confederate Army after General Robert E. Lee. Most people do not recognize him by his given name, but many do know him by his legendary nickname, Stonewall Jackson. Orphaned as a young boy, Jackson grew up in Lewis County, Virginia, and enrolled at West Point at the age of 18. He fought in the Mexican-American War and steadily rose up the ranks in the U.S. Army before retiring in 1851. For the next decade, he served as a professor at the Virginia Military Institute. Now, Jackson was a complicated figure. He was deeply devout in his Christian faith and especially confident in the sovereignty of God. He was quiet also, though, and reserved, but utterly resolute on the field of battle. Now, his attitude was somewhat different from General Lee, but their resolve on the battlefield was like-minded, and this made them a potent force together. He was a supreme military commander as well, who chose to deny the pomp and pageantry of most military commanders of the time. He rode a rather small horse for one thing, and he also dressed kind of humbly, and he often lived and spent time in the same quarters as his men. Just like his superior General Lee, Jackson was not fond of slavery, but when Virginia seceded from the Union in 1861, Jackson remained loyal to his home state and enlisted in the Confederate Army. At the First Battle of Bull Run in July of 1861, Jackson led the smaller Confederate forces to a surprising victory over the Union, and it was here that he earned the nickname Stonewall. He became a major general and led the rebels to several important victories in the Shenandoah Valley in 1862. In May of 1863, the Confederates were gaining ground on the Union at Chancellorsville. Jackson returned to headquarters after a successful day when he was caught in friendly fire. He was hit multiple times and was forced to have his left arm amputated. Jackson contracted pneumonia from the wound and died on May 10, 1863. Robert E. Lee mourned the loss of Stonewall Jackson with these immortal words, "He has lost his left arm, but I have lost my right." The Confederates could not overcome Jackson's death, and they surrendered to the Union less than 2 years later. Thanks so much for joining me once again for A Moment in History.